Hey folks, welcome to another drippy cool Saturday morning. I'm Lisa Mason Ziegler and welcome to this Lisa Live. We're talking about getting ready for spring and hey Daniel. So we're going to have a look first outside around the garden just to see kind of what's happened since last week. And then we're going to go inside and go to the transplant room. Hi Joni and Becky. And so I want to show you, I'm going to turn this around. Unfortunately, the construction next door to me is really being noisy this morning. So I don't think it'll hopefully not cause too much of a problem. But let me flip this one so you can see. So look what I did after I got off of here. Good morning, Mario and Peggy and Lynn. So last week when, I mentioned on the Facebook Live that I was hoping to be able to finish preparing the soil and to be able to make beds. Well, I made it happen after I kind of took a look at the next 2-week forecast. I mean, it really threw me into warp speed. So I finished the garden, and then as soon as Stevie got home Saturday afternoon, we were both here together, we jumped on and made these beds. And these beds are what our first warm season tender annuals will be planted in. And so obviously it's still too cool to plant, but I knew that if we missed that window of dry garden, that I was not going to have another opportunity to plant the plants that you're going to see in the plant room when it's their time. And I'm so grateful that, oh my goodness, I'd be a wild woman if we hadn't made these beds, chomping at the bit, because it has rained just enough the last week to keep the garden wet, not warm outside. It's cool again, so it's not drying out. So we made these beds are like, I'm gonna guess, I think they're like 65 feet long. And this is where our first warm season tender annuals are going. And down here is where I left that strip of crimson clover, which is like a habitat for beneficial creatures and pollinators. And then this patch, I almost, in my fury last week, I almost made beds here too. But this is where actually our corn and beans and sunflowers will be planted, and we do not use film for them. They're just planted into open ground. So, so we're ready and waiting. And so these pathways, none of this will be mulched. This will be mowed all summer long. This will be kept clean by tilling the pathways on the corn. But anyway, so we're ready. And then somebody asked me last week about the cool flower garden. Well, you're looking at it, and no, it's not over. It hasn't even really begun. So it is just still so cold and wet here that things are just, they're gorgeous plants. The minute it heats up, they're going to hit the ground running. So we're looking at snaps and sweet. I'm afraid to go too far over there. I still lose Wi-Fi when we get on this side of the building. The Sweet William is gorgeous. That Status that wintered over. Our straw flowers, our peonies are up. And on the other side over there is the direct seeded stuff. So we have not netted. I have not done anything out here. The ground is still too wet. Even if I netted, I'm going to walk over here. I think I see a poppy pod. I do. And these are those Italian poppies. They look kind of puny. And I will tell you that these plants, I direct seeded a bunch over yonder that look much better than this, but I discovered this is a super wet spot. And looky there, we got a bloom. So these were transplants that I started inside, and there's Billy Balls. Let's see if I lose you, if it says recording, or if you just hold on, and we'll have a look at the direct seeded stuff. This is the Buplurum garden here. And so here are the poppies that were direct seeded. And they look a little bit better. The drainage is better over here. And then here, look, this is the bed of the giant poppy pods, and nothing's netted. We got bachelor buttons that are starting to bloom there, and there's dill and white lace flower and agrostemma. And here's the peonies. which have a lot of henbit. I don't mind. This is henbit, this weed, which is really beneficial for pollinators. So we just let them go in berries, just walking all over the beds out there. So Cool Flowers hasn't even really started. We're walking in now. Hasn't even really started, and as soon as we get something to look at, I'll show you. Here are all my plug trays of sunflowers and corn that had to be moved out of the room, but they need protection at night because we're still going down into the high 40s at night, which is too cold for them. So I cover them at night and uncover them during the day once the sun comes out, and I will probably do that. So this is really just a makeshift. This is bulb crates surrounding the edge to kind of hold the row cover up because it's raining on and off here, so it's kind of heavy. So let's have a walk inside. And so I know that I think so many of you that watch me from time to time here hear me say it, but I'm going to say it some more. The most you can do to help me is to like and share this broadcast when we're done. That makes Facebook show our page to more people. So I really appreciate that. And I thought, you know, for me in spring, the number one thing is, gosh, I got to get my garden ready to receive plants. And I mean, that garden just sits out there and waits. Now it's ready. Those beds with the film on it will not be growing weeds because sunshine can't get to them because of the biodegradable film. And it's just ready and waiting for all of this stuff to get ready and the stuff that's in the germination chamber. So the next thing on my priority list is having seedlings, right, to plant out there. So when I was looking at that weather last week, two things became apparent. One, it was going to be wet and we had to make beds now or be late making beds. And secondly, that 2 weeks out includes my last spring frost, which is typically mid-April. And the true time that you want to plant these types of things out, I mean, this is celosias and basils, ageratums, and gomphrena and those types of things. They're all warm season stuff, and hairy balls, is when night temperatures are staying at 60 degrees and above. Listen to that again. When nighttime temperatures are 60 degrees and above, that's the trigger of when you start planting warm season tender annuals outside typically. Unless you're going to do some kind of protection, black film with hoops and covers. And if you missed it, there is a new blog. Well, actually, it's from last week. A new blog. I wrote a blog about row covers that talk about all the different uses. And I have a video of me making a low tunnel with lightweight row cover and the hoops. We will be planting these tender annuals out. Still not for 15 more days, not 15, probably like 10 more days. But it's still going to be too cold at night. They need protection. So that's the key. So, because, see how beautiful these are? Oh, I'm running into things. I mean, this is celosia. They're just, let me find one. Here, let's look this one. So this is Kurumi Rose. And look at the roots on these things. I mean, these things are just absolutely amazing. Well, let me tell you, and the light kind of makes it funny in here, doesn't it? These are zinnias that are about, I don't know how old these are. When did she start those? Can't see the date. She started these on the 28th, so what's today? So they're like 6-7 days old. And they're beautiful. And this is basil. Once again, I'm going to rustle it. Y'all sniff your phones. The lemon basil is, these are all, not these. The zinnias need one more week to be the perfect size. But these, and this basil, and this is another celosia over here. These are all the absolute perfect size. So I'm going to put my finger down here so y'all can see how big they are. See how big they are? This is the perfect planting size. But guess what? I can't plant them now, right? These guys are quickly going to grow rangy, lanky, and yellow no matter what I do to them if I don't do something. So later today I am making a video which is one of the previews of Flower Farming School that'll be emailed to all the people that are signed up to be notified when Flower Farming School registration opens. Is going to show me, I'll be talking a little bit about my pinching method and how I do it and why I do it. And almost the zinnias will not be pinched. They are not big enough yet. And it is true that I typically don't like to pinch my first planting of the season because that delays blooming, right? So this is more celosia. This is my favorite. This is the teacher's pet right here. This is Chief Persimmon Coxcomb. I love orange, y'all. So typically I would love to be planting these plants out right now, have the garden ready to roll, but it's just too cold. Plus, big problem, Bobo has gone to babysit her grandchildren for a week, and Bobo is the official planter on this farm. So all of these guys, except for the zinnias, because I'm hoping the zinnias, and see here's more zinnias. We got zinnias coming out our ears. And I want to take, look, there's more zinnias. I want to take this tray down. These aren't flowers, but this drives our flower business. The zinnias hopefully will be the perfect size to go in the ground when Bobo gets back. All of these guys will be pinched and they'll be perfect regrowth stage for when Bobo gets back. And looky here, this is 230, I think. Different types, 23 different types, 10 of each of different tomatoes, from the dwarfs that we're trialing up to some new heirlooms, as well as our old standards that we always grow. Like green zebra and Cherokee and Brandywines, yellow and red. Our standard hybrid big beef. This is what really drives our flower business. This is what keeps people coming to our private market weekly, is when we have lots of tomatoes for them. So tomatoes are an added value product, but they drive our business. So let me put these back up or I'll forget and they'll spend the day out from sunshine. These tomatoes they're at the perfect stage. We do plant tomatoes up to the larger blocker. It's the only thing. Peppers and tomatoes are the only transplants we do that for, because we want bigger plants to go outside, right? And they are at the perfect, I don't know if y'all can see those roots right there. They're at the perfect stage to do that. However, I don't have light room for them. Meaning if I potted these up to 2-inch blocks, that would mean this tray would then transplant into 8 of these trays, and I also have the space. So everybody in here is hungry and starving. I have not fertilized for 2 weeks since we made beds and I realized what was happening. All this green wonderfulness you see is a stage of the ready-made mix, blocking mix that we sell and also use, or the mix that you can buy from us, the nutrient mix. This is what organic, rich, blocking mix soil grows naturally, y'all, okay? So I am gonna walk out here. As I keep bumping into things, it's kind of tight in there right now. And I'm gonna turn this around, and we have a lot of great questions. First, we have to look and see where my dog is. I do not see her. The Lenten roses. It's kind of cloudy here today. Oh, hi, Stinker. Come on in. Barry, come. Come on. Come around this way. That's it. Good girl. Barry, no. Oh, y'all see it on camera. Come on. She just creamed the corn. Oh, my goodness. Crazy girl. Yep. Oh, well. So y'all see, Barry's not as perfect. Come on, Stinker. She's not as perfect as everyone thinks she is. Come on, girl. Come on. Now her feelings are hurt because I've said that about her. Come on in here. And you can see what she's been doing. She's covered in leaves. All right, let's look at some of these questions that y'all posted. Let me put this, I'm going to try really hard not to cut this off. So again, you guys, you can go to thegardenersworkshop.com and find everything that I'm talking about. There's the blog on the row cover and how to use that, a video of me making the tunnel, as well as you can buy row cover and hoops and even the anchor bags. Let me get this thing started. Technology's making me crazy. Okay. So, and there's two other announcements that I want to say, because if I don't say them, then I'll just get to talking and forget it. Am I straight? So please be sure to like and share this broadcast on your website, on your Facebook page. And y'all have been doing a marvelous job of that. And it makes such a huge difference. People that we know are not seeing our page get to see it the week following that. So that's really helpful. And also, if you haven't already done so, and you're a wannabe flower farmer, or you're thinking about it, or you're not sure, or you are a flower farmer, if you sign up to be notified when Flower Farming School Online registration opens, my online course, we'll send you the link to my free webinar, What It Takes to Be a Flower Farmer, and we will send you a $50 off coupon once registration opens in the fall. And then I'm going to be sending you some really great videos or emails during the summer about flower farming stuff that you just won't see anywhere else. So check that out. And then also, if you didn't see it on Facebook, April is mine and Suzanne's birthday month. I'm April 13th and she's the 14th. And we gave out a free coupon called, the promotion code is SISTERS. And it's $10 off a $50 order. So if you need to order potting soil, the blocking mix soil, that would almost pay for your shipping on it. So check that out. And so let's read here I'll come back and go through. Oh, thank you, Erin. I'll go back and read the feed here in just a minute. So I already mentioned that the key time to plant warm season tender annuals outside is when nighttime temperatures are staying at 60 and above. And let me just tell you what happens if you plant before that, for most. And sunflowers are different, and I'll talk about that because I see somebody had a question about that. When you plant warm season loving plants out into cold soil, that the days may be warm, but it's still cold and cool at night, they just sit there and shiver. They don't do any growing, they don't do any root laying out, versus when you plant them into warm soil, they just hit the ground running. And while they're sitting there shivering, stuff happens to them. Those are plants that sometimes, especially celosias, they'll be stunted. They'll just never grow to their full potential. So there's a lot of reasons to either wait, don't start them too early. If you did start them too early, you need to pinch them if they're a branching plant, and that'll buy you some time, which is like what I'm going to do. And next week, you'll see the results of that. And secondly, that your plants just will not be happy, y'all, and they are more susceptible to diseases. And unless you're going to hoop and cover them, which just creates a little greenhouse effect in there, it's just really not worth it. If I planted a smaller plant into warm soil and you plant your bigger plant into cool soil, my plant's going to outgrow your plant, okay? So that's the story on planting and protecting. We talked about blocking mix. We talked about pinching. I'm just reading all my... So I'm going to read some of these questions here. So Patty asked, where'd you buy your bed maker? Also, why would some of our soil blocks be disintegrating more than others when we water? Bed maker. I have a Rainflow brand bed maker. And that's the name of the business, Rainflow Irrigation. It's in Pennsylvania. Can't highly recommend it enough. Mine is now, how old is mine? 6 or 7 years old. And it's just, we have had no trouble whatsoever with it. And The blocking mix disintegrating is one of two things. It's either the blocking mix that you're using does not hold together. That's part of the blocking mix problem that so many people suffer from. And the other thing is the way you're watering them. I never pour water towards the blocks. I always water towards the edge of the tray to break that gentle stream. But you should not have disintegration. So Patricia asked, reviewing both books, still have questions, turning over flower bed space between cool season and warm season crops. And then she asked, do you do anemones? No, I do not do anemones. Mine have been, do you think I can pull them up? I cannot comment. I have no idea about the growth habits of anemones. I just don't grow them for no particular reason other than that they're tough to grow outside. And they're taking up a lot of space. So basically for me, when my bed goes from one crop to the next crop, because I think there's another question about this, like the cool flower garden that's out front, as soon as a bed is done, I deem it done, we mow it, till it, add in organic fertilizer, till, and make a new bed and plant again. Nothing remains. So I hope that answers your question. I purchased the Biodegradable Row cover, she means film, on warm season plants. Do you use the white side or the black side up? So the biodegradable film is what you just saw, the black out in my garden, that is not plastic. And if you're using the biodegradable film, you need to practice not calling it plastic. It is film. It is not plastic. It is made out of a corn byproduct. And that just helps you to remember that it's totally biodegradable, but it also educates people. So the key is, and I believe it's on the instructions that we include with the product, and it's on our website. When you're making beds, if afternoon temperatures, which are the high of the day, right, are going above 80 or 85, I think I actually put 85 on the instructions. If it's going to go above 85 degrees, then we make the beds with the white side up. The white side up makes the surface about 20 degrees cooler than the black side. So this time of the year, when it's not going up to 85 degrees in the afternoon, and we're going to get those warm season stuff in the garden, which are really dying for warm, right? We use the black side up. When I plant my fall garden, black side up. When we're in summer, planting summer rotations, the same thing I'm planting now, but just over and over again, white side up. It all depends on your afternoon temperatures. So Betsy's asking about companion planting. What should not go near each other? So my whole who gets planted where has nothing to do with companion planting. It's more about growth habit, how tall is it getting and what kind of bushiness. Like, for instance, marigolds and black carrot, and and feverfew, they're all so robust. They get huge. They grow big. They grow wide. So I tend to not, the next group of flowers in a bed, either I put a 3-foot space between them, or I put something that's just as pushy. Oftentimes Bobo will say, well, how close do you want me to plant that? I say, let's let them fight it out. Plant them, don't put any space between them in the bed. So in my opinion, there really isn't a whole lot of flowers that we grow as cut flower farmers that cause trouble planted next to some. I did mention in cool flowers, back when I was doing research, that feverfew, and I had not noticed it enough to be able to comment. I went with what the research supported. I say, don't plant feverfew next to your tomatoes if you want a lot of pollinators, because pollinators don't visit feverfew. That's what all the professionals say. Well, guess what, y'all? Our feverfew is covered in insects and pollinators and good bugs. So I have just really found that to not be true. So sometimes you have to, Betsy, do your own research, which is what I end up doing. So I don't think there's anything you can plant next to each other in flower farming that's a problem. What flowers do you start in cell trays rather than soil blocks? So I plant sunflowers in plug trays because we start so many. We start hundreds every week. Would be too labor intensive because it would take the big block. We use 128 trays. I start corn in plug trays because we want to have it ready. I'm probably going to be planting that corn next week out in the garden myself. I won't wait for Bobo to get back. And again, it's just too labor intensive for the volume. Home gardener, you could certainly do a smaller volume of stuff and do soil blocks. But we use plug trays for two reasons, because of volume and because of what you just saw outside. I can set them outside to be directly rained on. You cannot do that with soil blocks because I don't have enough light room to support all the plants that we start in my 10 by 10 room. So plug trays just give me more options to help maintain them. Kathy, how do you germinate triloba? Triloba is the rudbeckia. And I'm just reading. I'm following directions from the seed company and have placed them in the fridge. I'm going to cough, y'all. Sorry. If I have a coughing fit, I'm going, and I'm signing off, but I think I'm right in the middle of my medicine, so I should be good. So she's asking, do I put Rudbeckia triloba on or off the heat mat? So first off, Kathy, there are so many different strands of triloba I have learned, and they're not normally labeled. There's so many subcategories from that. I learned this from a native plant person. So the triloba that we grow here, we keep in the freezer. We take it out, we sow it on the surface of soil blocks, and it goes onto the heat mat on cookie cooling racks to cool it down, but yet it's warm consistently. And they're slow, but we get a good germination. Once you can get one triloba plant in your garden, you will never need to plant it again because it is a pretty strong reseeder. I have a 100-foot by 20-foot hedgerow of this gorgeous stuff that we live off of in July and August and September for bouquets that totally reseeds itself. You can also find plants at native plant sales. And again, there's different strands. If you can see them in bloom, some are tighter, some are more spread out. So I could have a whole farm of Triloba rudbeckia. Mary Beth, when do you start fertilizing your seedlings? So once the seedlings, the soil blocks, move from heat, whether it's the heat mat or the chamber, to light, they start getting weekly fertilization. On Mondays, I typically put seaweed fish fertilizer. We sell the Neptune's Harvest that we love and use. But as I mentioned earlier, if I don't want them to keep moving along, I just don't feed them, as you saw me talk about in there. So they get it once a week once they're under grow lights. Do you have a specific way to get the beds ready for transplants? Yes. So we do till. We're a minimal till farm, but we do till. High production is really difficult to manage with no till. And I'm old, and we're set up for tilling. So I kind of tweak it. So we till cover crops. We put down dry organic fertilizer. Then we till one more time, and then we make beds. Let's see. Do you make hills to plant your transplants in? No, Amber. Actually, I do the opposite of that. When we plant into raised beds, we typically kind of make a little divot by the way of we make our hole. We drop our soil block in and then smush it. That kind of makes a depression, and that's where water collects. This is the first year I'm trying Bio 360. I can only get black. Should I use this for the cool flowers as too much heat for the warm ones? Also, I'm hand watering, no irrigations. Is it easier to water plants around than, she called it plastic. It's film, Aunt Kathy, and that's y'all's practice for the week. If you're using biodegradable film, it took me a long time too to get over it, but it lets people know that you're not using plastic. So her question is, so Kathy, I would say that you just need to be very cautious. In the heat of summer, I would really speculate about using the black side up. I did do it for years before they had the white. And they do sell at greenhouse supply places this calcium product that you spray on greenhouses to create shade. I know people that have sprayed the black film with that. Sounds like a lot more work, but if you have a whole 4,000 foot roll of the black stuff, you need to find an option. I would be afraid to plant in black in temperatures over 85 degrees for sure, but definitely use it in spring and in fall. When you switch out your beds for different crops after the hardy annuals, do you till again, add amendments, and replace the plastic? Okay, so I think I just answered that, Doreen. So yes, I mean, the crops are mowed, the bed is tilled, organic fertilizer goes down, we till again, then we make the bed and lay new film. And she also asked, are there certain plants you don't interplant together? Not because of the plants, variety, other than its growth habit, right? So I have just learned to plant plants that are, maybe sometimes they aren't as long a harvest window, like a lot of the not a lot, but several of the cool flowers, agrostemma, corncockle, flash crop. Larkspur is a flash crop for me. It's only like 2 or 3 weeks. So I tend to plant those things together, right? And I tend to plant like the poppies and the bachelor buttons and the things that are the earliest. So you learn you have to do this stuff, y'all. You have to figure out, you just have to plant this stuff, suffer the consequences, and make notes that next year, and you got to go to your calendar. I haven't talked about the big calendar. I'll turn it and show it. See, it's hanging over there on our door. We write everything on that calendar. So it's something that I experience now like that. I would go to the calendar and write it over in the notes, because when I'm planning my garden this coming winter, what do I look at? This calendar. And I'll say, good grief, plant this, and this together, because they all kind of like come on at the same time and then they're gone. It is going to be different for every person's garden. And the conditions, I mean, we're so late this year. It's April 5th. Usually we're knee deep in poppies by now, but it has been so cloudy and rainy and cold. And I have to take this coat off. So that's what dictates to me over who I plant next to what. And Nicole had a great question. Very observant, Nicole. Why are my walkways so wide in that garden out there? That she says she never has enough space, and walkways take up the space. And you are so very right. First off, I no longer have a space problem, because I'm no longer, chomping at the bit to produce 15,000 stems of flowers a week as early as I physically can, which means our pathways were super narrow. So when our whole garden is packed with beds, meaning narrow pathways, I can have 144 beds on this farm. That is a lot of beds. And but now that we have a bed maker, the bed maker implement requires a certain amount of space. And also, I wasn't driving the tractor when these current beds were made, which was perfectly fine. I was on the ground, the boots on the ground doing it. They're a little bit wider than normal, but it doesn't matter to me now, because we're not trying to up our production so very, very much. So now, that's all the questions, the pre-questions I had. Let's go back and have a look. Holy cow, okay. Hello, Oregon. Good morning, Peggy. So, because, this gets recorded and it'll be downloaded to my blog here shortly. So this is a Facebook Live for people that are watching this at a later date. And I try to do one a week. The time varies. I try to do it on Saturdays for the most viewing. But you can catch me on Facebook and ask your questions live. So let's see. Hey, Shirley, I'm glad you got here too. Hello, Wanda. Top of the morning to you from Alaska. Good morning, New Beginnings. And Kim, please explain more about the Italian poppies. So, it's an Iceland poppy. It's just another variety. The seeds are hard to find. I bought them directly from Hank, the guy that imports them from Italy, and they're taller and bigger blooms. And we have like half of that bed is in, I forget which variety it is that I didn't look at I don't have last year's calendar here because they were planted last fall. We planted our normal champagne bubbles and we planted these Italian poppies. And we're going to see. They both kind of look the same except they're supposed to be bigger blooms and taller stems. We're going to find out. So, and if I see that they're warranted to sell the seed and I can get them, we will offer them next year. So Aaron's asking that, so you start your sunflowers inside. Yes, we start everything inside. In the fall, there's a few cool, hardy season annuals that we plant directly in the garden. We don't direct seed anything in spring or summer. It's just the conditions are too tough. It's too much work. You have to thin them. It takes too many seeds. So we start sunflowers. We grow Pro-Cut Orange. We start them in 128 plug trays. We start them every week, and we plant them out when they're 2 to 3 weeks old. I was waiting to direct seed my Pro-Cuts. Should I start them in our hoop house? I mean, things just happen out in the garden, and then you have to thin them. And, you know, I mean, so why not start them and have them ready to plant out when it's time? I don't know that I remember where you are, Aaron. And I will say this about sunflowers. They are more cool tolerant than many other warm season tender annuals. When I was hoeing the Buplurum, let's see, today is what, Saturday? I was hoeing the Buplurum when I got home, or before I went away on Tuesday morning I hoed. And that's where I had a huge patch of sunflowers last year for demonstration, which meant they opened in the garden, and I left them. I never cut them. So there are sunflowers reseeding all over the place out there. So when I was hoeing last Tuesday, cold as heck still here, there were baby sunflowers all over the place. So that's why those sunflowers that are underneath the cloth that Barry just walked on, I will plant them out earlier. And we may or may not cover them. It depends on how much energy I have. So start them inside, Aaron, then plant them out the very earliest that you can. Hey, yes, Karen, y'all sniff your phones. Oh, and Barry. Yeah, Amy. It was kind of funny. I tell you, back in the day when I was where many of you are, trying to figure this out, trying to find my way, I was crazy. I mean, I would get so upset at the dog for walking across beds, laying and smashing stuff. But first off, I realized they're dogs and they don't really know the difference. And it's up to you to train them how to avoid that problem, right? But I'm just over it now. I just find that usually it's okay. So I got far bigger things. There's a lot bigger things to worry about than that. So I laugh too now, Amy, is what I'm getting at. And laughing makes it all the more fun. So Kim, we get down to the 50s most of the summer. Where are you? When would be the best time to plant the warm flowers? Where are you, Kim? Wonder if I can look on here. Y'all stand by a minute. Wonder if she's, so people that live in areas that just really don't get really great warm, hot summers like I get here, those are people that really, I'm looking at me on this thing. I want to see the comments. People that live in Canada, perhaps, in zone 2 and 3, people that sometimes live out in Washington where it rains all the time and summer just never gets hot. Those are people that benefit mostly from growing more cool flowers than warm. And then you have to really give your warm season stuff some special attention. And sometimes that would be a hoop house, which of course I don't grow under. So if you don't ever go above 50 at nights, stuff is going to struggle for you. You would just have to wait until the days are the warmest and when the highest temperatures of the season for you are coming, and that's when I would start my experiment. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Amy. And you're welcome for the $10 coupon. Hey, Lisa. Okay, we are using your recipe, but I think we blocked them too wet, maybe. So the recipe, first off, for the soil blocking mix is always on our website. It's in our catalog. And what I find is that when we sift the peat moss, sometimes it does make it really, really fine. So it's really all about how they're more susceptible. If your peat moss is really powdery, it can make them easier to disintegrate. So you have to pay special close attention to watering. And the way I do that is if this is, let me get a tray. So this is our little home gardener tray that holds 2 clusters of 20 blocks. And so when I place a block, I don't have a blocker in here. When I would place blocks on this tray, I would pick ones, they would go long ways, 5 long, 4 wide. That's how the blocker makes the clusters. I would make sure to park the blocks when I put them on the tray close to one side of the edge. What that does is creates a well on one side. You may or may not, if you look back at this broadcast, you can notice in all my trays in there, all the blocks are kind of stationed to one side of the tray. They're not tight together. There's still ways for water to run in between the clusters, but they leave a well for me to pour water in. And when I pour water into this tray, be sure to watch on the Learning Center, go to the Learning Center, to the video guide to all things soil blocking. There is a watering video, and it shows me pouring water, and I would pour the stream against the edge of the tray, and that helps that. And once the blocks get roots through them, that is so much less of a problem. So that may be it, Patty. You may be right. My soil blocks are getting a hard crust on the top, and the plants don't seem to be growing. None of them look like yours. My first question, Heidi, would be, what blocking mix are you using? I can tell you from 21 years of trying everything with soil blocking, because I read this and I don't even reply because I don't have time to convince people what to do, and everybody, of course, can do what they want. But there are a lot of people that are talking about using other mixes beyond specific for soil blocking mixes. There's a couple problems with that. First off, most of those are sterile, and they have a lot of vermiculite and perlite in them, which make the blocks just be more predisposed to breaking down. But we are non-believers. We do not believe in sterile soil, which is what most seed starting mix is. And the nutrients, the green sand and the rock phosphate powder, you cannot use granules. And I understand how hard it is to find. You all just don't even know. I have been negotiating, getting tons of it mixed to make our product. And I'm telling you, I understand the frustration. I mean, ask Suzanne how many times in the last 2 weeks I've said, we are not selling it anymore, but we have to sell it because people have trouble finding it. This was not the case 5 years ago. 5 years ago and beyond that, green sand, rock phosphate, bone meal, blood meal, cottonseed meal, all the original, those are the original organic fertilizers. This is what the people used before all these companies started in on making all these mixes. Those were the organic fertilizers. And when you went to the big box stores, there'd always be little bags lined up right above all the big bags below of all of these green. That's how I bought them. Green sand, rock phosphate powder. Well, now they've just stopped making those small bags. So I understand that it's difficult to find. But the soil blocking mix is the secret to those wonderful seedlings that you see in there. It's the nutrient mix and the ready-made mix that we offer. We buy it ready-made mix actually from upstate New York. We just had 3 huge slings of it delivered to our warehouse. And it's double sifted too, by the way, now. And that has got natural rock in it that provides those nutrients. That's the difference, you know? So I know it's hard to find and it's difficult, but if you need to buy a 50-pound bag of rock Tennessee brown phosphate powder and green sand powder, it'll probably cost you $80 after you pay shipping, but that will last you for the rest of your farming life to make soil blocking mix, you know? I mean, if you keep it dry in your garage, it'll last forever. It's worth it if you have to do that, or go in with a friend. We sell it mixed. I think it's a 16-ounce package, which will make 600 times 8. That's how many small soil blocks when you put your compost and your peat moss with it. So I'm just saying to you, I know it's a pain in the neck, y'all. We suffer from the same problem, but that's how I grow such great transplants. Just received my Vegetables Love Flower book in the mail this morning. Oh, you're welcome, Dora. My pleasure. Corn variety, we only grow Silver Queen. That is an old family tradition here. Steve's grandpa grew it. They have a big tradition of eating it fresh in the garden and sharing it with friends, and we freeze it and put it up. As a matter of fact, I just made the bachelor goulash last week, and we had fresh Silver Queen corn off the cob. Oh my gosh, it was so good. What fertilizer do you use on lilacs? I don't grow lilacs, but I would search engine that question, Lisa. I would think they would. I'm not sure even what time of the year you would do that, because I think they're blooming now. But I would ask that to a search engine. Hey, Kenny from Smithfield over there on his farm. Kenny owns the local seafood restaurant. If anybody here in Hampton Roads, Finn's, it's in Port Warwick. And we went there for Steve's birthday meal. And I think we're going back for my birthday, I hope. It's the most delicious. It was just the most enjoyable meal that we have had in a long time. And so Kenny's a chef. And his place is just over the top. Delicious. Hello from Alberta, from Tennessee and Alabama. Let's see. Oh, good, Beth. I'm glad. So, I'm just reading here. I don't see any more questions. Oh, getting spotty germination on marigolds and sunflowers. I would say heat, Kim. Sometimes I have trouble, believe it or not, with marigolds. It depends on what variety it is. I think those seeds get old quick. And so we just ordered in new seeds, and when Bobo restarted them, we had much better germination. I used some from actually 2 years ago. So I will tell you, when you have spotty germination, it's almost always environmental. Usually it's temperature or moisture. We're either overwatering them or they don't get warm enough to sprout. So I feel your pain. And hey, the woman that germinated Bells of Ireland like nobody else has. So I would just look at your heat and watering situation. Do you have success with Irish Spring as a deer repellent? If you look way back on our video guide, I think there is a video of Bobo and I shredding Irish Spring in a Cuisinart food processor. And I sprinkled it all over our strawberry patch. And in fact, it did work, but it was a total pain in the butt. So anything stinky, deer don't like. So, but what we have found, you just have to change it up. If it's Irish Spring this week, then next week or the week after, you have to use something different. And we use deer spray. Actually, one of the things holding the row cover out there down on the stuff that Barry walked on was I Must Garden deer repellent, and that works really well too. I try to keep 2 or 3 different things on hand and change them up, and they do work, but you just it's like mice. You just have to constantly be after them. This is my first year flower farming, so I'm late to the game. I was going to direct seed Bells of Ireland in the spring. Should I even mess with them in spring? Nope. I don't know where you are, Aaron, but it is typically too late. They'll germinate, but they just won't have time to grow before the heat. You need to be thinking about warm season stuff, so move on. I've made your recipe. Can I also use the recipe for transplanting indoor houseplants? So Dora, the difference between growing in a container and a soil block is in a container for a houseplant, the roots are not getting oxygen from the side, so you can use the same mix, but you need to add perlite to it to help break it up to make airways. Oh, Deanne, I'm sorry. After a month, Bupleurum is still a no-show. Several people have posted about, if you go back, there's one of the Lisa Lives talks about most often with Bupleurum, it's not cool enough. They need cool temperatures to germinate. That's why in January in that room, when it gets down and it's on the floor that's concrete, it's really cold, I would almost promise you they need darkness, they need to be on the surface of the soil, covered with another tray, and they need darkness and cool temps, and they will germinate. But I think, Deanna, I don't know where you are, but I bet you've missed your window. It's too warm already. I have a lot of vole and rodent pressure. Any tips to keep them away? I can't plant any root crops. Yeah, we used to have a really big vole trouble here, and we just really encourage their predators, which are snakes, hawks, and owls, things that most people don't really like very much. We have totally eliminated our vole problem and our rabbit problem, really. And I did post somewhere, I think it was, where was that? If you search engine Elliott Coleman vole box, it'll show you the above ground box that you put mouse traps in. And I did it. That's how we broke our population. It works really, really well. And there's a video, I think, even several people have shown how to make them. So I'm not going to talk about it, but Elliott Coleman vole box, check it out. So I'm planting early spring flowers. So Susan must have, the snow must be melting. Your nutrient mix with local compost. So yes, and peat moss. So I think, Heidi, you were the one saying how that the blocks were disintegrating. I would just take really special care. I'm looking at it's hard for me to remember questions from one to the other. Really special care early on. You may be putting too much water, and my watering can has a really small hole that I use for soil blocks, so it doesn't pour a lot of volume out. And so you just need to get it down where you're aiming the water and how fast it's rolling out. For instance, I can wash my blocks away when I overwater every day. I flood the trays once they're in plants, and then I tip them after a few minutes to pour it off. And if I just go tip, it washes blocks away. But if I tip it slowly, it does not wash blocks away. So that may not sound like that could help, but I'm telling you, it makes a really big problem. I found both green sand. Oh, there you go. Wanda said, Wanda's in Alaska. If she can get it, we can, right? I found both green sand and rock phosphate powder on Amazon, but it's in smaller boxes. I mean, that's perfect, right? You only use, I can't remember what the rest is, but like a quarter or a half a cup at a time. So thank you, Wanda, for that tip. That's good to know. I've got access to lots of coffee grounds. I've been adding it slowly to my new beds. Do you see any insight on using coffee grounds and mulch and fertilizer? Well, first off, too much of any good thing's too much. I would not OD anything on coffee grounds. You know, if you put some in a bed, then you need to put them somewhere else, or put them in your compost, or incorporate them into the bed. Can't off the top of my head tell you what coffee grounds offer, but too much. I have read once about a lady that was putting her fireplace ashes in the garden. Well, she killed her whole garden because she had a big fireplace. And so too much of a good thing. So everything in moderation. And then of course, fertilizer by direction. I hope I haven't missed the registration for your school. I haven't seen it. So I'm glad you asked that, Darlene. So go to thegardenersworkshop.com. Go to the online courses. There's 4 there. Go to the Flower Farming School. Right at the top, it says, click here to get notified. And you just sign up your email. That means that we'll first off send you the free webinar. Then you're going to get 3 or 4 emails from me over the season with videos and information about flower farming and just telling you a little bit more about it to kind of see if it's really for you. And then registration opens October 1st. And we will send you emails to keep you abreast of that, as well as we'll send you a $50 off coupon. So when you sign up, you're just signing up to get emails. You're not signing up for school. You're not obligated, but you get a lot of benefits from doing that. So go over there and check that out, thegardenersworkshop.com. Hi, so what can be done to loosen the seeds if they don't come off the ends of germinating the plant leaves? So we talked about that last week. We spray them, mist them with water, and that typically lets go, and you can go back and watch last week. Any quick reference, one shot for high germination? Any quick reference in one shot for high germination rate? Which seeds need light, grow mat? No, you have to, because they're all so different. Like for instance, in cool flowers, I tell you that, whether they need to be covered or not, and in vegetables, love flowers, for the flowers that we feature in those books. I'm in zone 7. When should I start my seedlings in the hoop house for the fall? Zone 7, our first frost is mid-November. We plant out mid-September to 1st of October, and we start 6 weeks before that, if that answers. For Buplurum, maybe I have a dud seed pack. I'm in zone 3, Alberta, and left them 3 weeks in my cold, garage in the dark. So first off, Buplurum can be testy. So what we do is totally water the tray, then plant the seeds, cover them, and put them out there. I would try again, Deanna. I don't know what your temperatures are like right now, but I would definitely say it's worth trying again. It took me a couple of times too. Once you figure it out, you'll have it. Is volcanic ash the same as rock phosphate? I do not believe so. And again, y'all, I do not fill my brain with all the science of that stuff. I rely on experts. And Elliot Coleman, who I just heard him talking about it again, recommends actually colloidal phosphate, which is powder rock phosphate. But it seems to me, and it's got some other things in it, that it is different. So y'all, I am signing off here now. I thank you so much for watching. Please like and share. And as soon as this weather breaks, maybe we'll do a little bit more outside stuff. And I appreciate you joining me here today. Be sure to visit the website. If you sign up for the newsletter at the top of the page, I'll send you some free spring resources. Don't forget about the $10 off a $50 order. The code is Sisters, celebrating mine and Suzanne's birthday, April 13th and 14th. I got her for my 4th birthday almost. And so, hey, we appreciate everybody, and I look forward to seeing many of you in Flower Farming School. Thank you, Susan and Aaron, and you guys have a great day. Ciao.